This is the Red Sea, going down to the Gulf of Aden. It is a vital trade route for both Saudi Arabia and Egypt. But now, the Houthis in Yemen have taken over. After weeks of bombing ships, including freight carriers, the U.S. has had enough, sending the destructive F-35C to crush these Houthi rebels and teach them a lesson. After weeks of repeated attacks on U.S. and other commercial ships, the United States has turned toward one of its key weapons, the F-35C. With more than 40,000 pounds of thrust, this F-35 takes off from the USS Harry S. Truman in the Red Sea. Inside it is two of these bombs, the BLU-122, more commonly known as the bunker buster. Its goal, to cause as much destruction as possible and completely disrupt everything in the Houthi-controlled sections of Yemen. With these massive bombs, the U.S. is sending a clear message. Get out of the Red Sea or else. On March 28th, news broke of repeated strikes again targeting the Houthis. This is not new, as the United States, under the Biden administration, took the unprecedented stance of using the powerful and undetectable B-2 bomber back in October of 2024. But strikes on Yemen had slowly come to an end following a ceasefire brokered between Israel and Hamas. As Israel began targeting Hamas, the Houthis vowed to retaliate, where they would continue striking U.S. and Israeli ships entering the Red Sea. As President Donald Trump put it, the Houthis are shooting missiles indiscriminately and without any care what they hit. The campaign, essentially driven by the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group, began back on March 15th. As part of the mission, the United States focused on hitting Houthi military installations and various missile launch stations. But now, this is intensified, with the U.S. shifting its focus toward Houthi leaders. According to the Houthis, these F-35 strikes left at least 7 people injured around Sana'a, and even more people injured near the Red Sea port of Hodeidah. The main goal of these port strikes, IGANGs, is to obliterate any infrastructure the Houthis can use in sending pirate ships after commercial vessels. Secondly, the United States is aiming to cut off the flow of weapons from Iran. Since the Houthis are operating in a proxy capacity, much like Hamas and Hezbollah, it is dependent on weapons coming from Iran to further disrupt trade in the Red Sea. Further reports suggest that these U.S. aircraft also attacked the Marib, Amran, and Al-Jauf governorates. These strikes began on March 15th, with the United States targeting various forms of military installations. According to Washington, the idea was to wipe out radars, air defenses, and missile launch sites. This will significantly reduce the capabilities of the Houthis to complete their mission of disrupting flow in the Red Sea. Championing these strikes was the United States F-35C, which focused most of its attention on the Sana'a International Airport. In fact, this airport has been chief among U.S. targets since the start of the bombing campaign. Since the start of these strikes, it is reported that around 40 strikes alone have been launched on the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, with about 15 people injured in the March 15th attacks. Furthermore, the United States Navy has been focusing on Amran, which serves as the location for the Houthis Al-Masirah satellite news station. The main purpose of this facility was to continue blasting propaganda to the world and even communicating with its allies back in Iran. But why is the United States hell-bent on destroying the Houthis, such a small country, with barely any effect on the war? Since the famous October 7th attacks on Israel, the Houthis have been interjecting themselves in this war. The initial onslaught was launched by Hamas, with its main goal of targeting Israeli citizens. Since the attack, Israel responded with devastating attacks, bringing Gaza to its knees and crippling what is left of Hamas. However, one of the biggest moves made by Israel was to create a blockade, where the country would focus on stopping any aid from entering Gaza. This didn't sit well with the Houthis and other allies of Iran. Among these allies to seek retribution on Israel was Hezbollah. However, Hezbollah didn't last long, and after a few weeks of repeated attacks, They would completely obliterate what was left of Hezbollah in Lebanon. Further down south is the small country of Yemen, with its largely Shia Muslim population. Inside this country is another Iranian proxy faction by the name of the Houthis. They set out to enact some kind of retaliation, targeting Western ships entering the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. With hundreds of missile launchers, all brought in from Iran, the Houthis began launching attacks on these commercial vessels, which significantly affected the current world trade. In fact, the Cape Point route, which goes around the coast of South Africa, has seen a more than 100% increase in traffic. This means that due to the repeated Houthi onslaught, many shipping vessels, including the Chinese, have rerouted their ships to travel around the coast of Africa. While this is working, it does add time to transportation, which leads to scarcity and increases the costs. Products all over the world are becoming more and more expensive, with the Houthis wreaking havoc in the Red Sea. This forced the United States to intervene, to again allow trade to flow. So under the Biden administration, the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group was deployed to the Red Sea. Its main goal? To protect the U.S. and other Western interests in the region. Initially, the United States believed that simply having such a show of force would already deter the Houthis. But this didn't happen, and the attack continued hitting commercial vessels, with the Houthis taking it one step further and focusing their attention on attacking the United States military head-on. Big mistake. U.S. strikes on the Houthis continued, with reports from Yemen on March 17th suggesting that 53 people, including 5 children, had passed away in these initial bombing raids. As part of its propaganda, the Houthis touted that most of it was civilians, who were indiscriminately targeted. As of March 27th, this report has suggested that now 57 people have lost their lives during these U.S. strikes, which is more than half of the total number of casualties the Houthis had sustained during similar bombing campaigns launched in 2024. But for the average person, seeing new Houthi strikes on the news doesn't bear any more weight. Well, according to various news sources, the United States launched just over 305 strikes on the Houthis during the whole of 2024. As of March 15th, under President Trump, this number is more than 100 already, meaning that it could catch up to estimates under the Biden administration pretty quickly. And Donald Trump doesn't seem to be any merciful, and it seems like these strikes are only going to intensify even more. Just a few days ago, the United States announced that it would be moving the USS Carl Vinson, the United States' third Nimitz-class carrier, to the Red Sea as well. On top of it, well, this is even more F-35 aircraft with the sole purpose of absolutely devastating the Houthis. The problem is that these rebels are not backing down, and the Houthis have been directly responding with attacks of their own, as futile as this might sound. On March 26th, the New York Post released an article where it suggests that the Houthis have specifically targeted U.S. ships. According to the Houthis, they have launched repeated missile strikes on the USS Harry Truman warship and some of its other supporting ships that it is often flanked by. Despite these reports, which the United States labels as propaganda coming from Yemen, new information suggests that the Houthis might have missed their shots by over 100 miles. This is actually comical if you think about it, especially with the defensive measures often employed by these carrier strike groups. Due to their immense size, such a unit is designed with a plethora of other ships surrounding it. Even submarines are traversing this water, and many of these ships are fitted with anti-missile defense weapons. However, old radar systems used by the Houthis might give some credence to this U.S. report. The Houthis might not have the capabilities of even coming close to the United States warships in any real capacity. The biggest damage that the Houthis have done is targeting various commercial ships looking to move through these waters and reach their destinations in either Egypt or Saudi Arabia. The Houthis have suggested that these attacks will continue for as long as the world permits Israel to continue striking Gaza and suppressing the deliverance of humanitarian aid. Moreover, These rebels feel emboldened, continually lashing out at the West and the United States. But then the US deployed one of its most impressive fifth-generation fighters yet. While these aircraft carriers generally carry the FA-18 Super Hornet, which can be used in a dual capacity as an air fighter or strike aircraft, recent reports suggest that they have been mixing it up. Now, the F-35 has become an important part of the aircraft carrier's tools. The F-35, with its advanced radar system and capability of carrying the bunker buster, has become a deadly part of wars. First, Israel used them to completely eviscerate the Hezbollah strongholds that were in Lebanon. With the bunker buster being shielded with a 1-inch layer of steel, it also included a delayed time fuse. This means that once the bomb hits the ground, it doesn't necessarily explode on impact, but rather focuses on penetrating deep into the earth. Once the bomb hits the surface, it doesn't explode like more conventional weapons. Instead, it continued using its weight to penetrate deeper into the ground. After a few milliseconds, the bomb is triggered, exploding while being forced to divert its explosion downwards into the ground. This enables it to hit targets deep beneath the ground. When bunkers are located too deep, the United States will deploy numerous of these bombs. Each will clear away a section of earth on top, while each subsequent bomb continues penetrating deeper and deeper until it reaches its location. This is largely what the F-35 carried in its attacks on a mountain deep in Yemen. The attack not only rattled the area, but is suggested to have struck a high-ranking Houthi official, proving just how powerful these F-35 aircraft are. Moreover, the F-35 is a fifth-generation fighter with modern advanced radar capabilities and an impressive weapon system. Once deployed, it can strike targets from miles away, without radar even detecting it. This is exactly why the United States so heavily relies on these powerful fighters. But despite the powerful show of force that is already seen in the Red Sea, the United States has taken this one step further, with the idea of using its flagship bomber called the B-2. The most impressive ship in the United States Air Force is the B-2 bomber. It is rarely used and can completely devastate any enemy. Thanks to its stealth capabilities, the B-2 can strike easily without being detected, and it can also carry large amounts of ordnance. It is these high quantities of ordnance that often wreaks havoc when it is used. The first mention of these aircraft was seen on October 17, 2024. How many of these were deployed back in 2024 is still up for debate, but it did wreak havoc on Houthi military installations. While reports of injuries were kept largely under wraps by the Houthis, it is believed that the United States attacked 5 underground military facilities, and all of them hit their targets. By looking at the standard U.S. arsenal, it is very rare to see a B-2 Spirit actually being used in military conflict. In fact, it is the most powerful bomber in the world, virtually impervious to any form of radar and defenses that the East is currently using. Now, just a few days ago, various news outlets reported that the United States had deployed 1/3 of its fleet of these bombers to the island of Diego Garcia. This U.S. base has been used excessively due to its location. It is more than 4,000 miles from Yemen, which means that Yemeni cruise or ballistic missiles don't have the capabilities to reach it. It is also out of the reach of Iran, which ensures that whatever the United States is planning, it doesn't have to fear any form of retaliation. A quick look at the U.S. Air Force suggests that it has about 20 of these aircraft in its fleet. 7 have now been deployed to Diego Garcia, with its mission currently still unknown. Footage merely shows them landing and performing a few training missions that could perhaps have a direct effect on what is coming. Given the fact that most militaries run their fleets about 60% readiness, it means that half of the United States' active B-2 bombers have been placed on this island, making it one of the biggest congregations of these aircraft on foreign soil ever. But it also begs the question of what is going on and what the United States has planned for this massive fleet. It doesn't seem like the Houthis are backing down in any way. In fact, they have continued attacks and even vowed to continue striking U.S. warships in the Red Sea. Recent reports on March 29th reveal the latest U.S. airstrikes on Iran, which might have been drones instead of any military aircraft. Yemen has reported that at least one person has lost his life during these bombing raids. It doesn't seem like this will stop anytime soon, and with the current situation continuing to escalate, things could be extremely daunting for the Houthi in the near future. A major question is whether or not the United States is getting any assistance from its allies. While it is widely known that the United Kingdom assisted significantly back in 2024, the current U.S. diplomatic ties with many of its allies suggest that 2025 is different. It now seems like the U.S. is going this alone, and they might need to continue these strikes. Meanwhile, the Houthis are being backed by Iran, who made no secret about its intentions to continue supporting the Yemeni rebels. This might have been a mistake, and it could possibly cost the country of Yemen everything. As diplomatic ties sour around the world and Iran becomes emboldened, it will be interesting to see down which path this war leads us. President Donald Trump is adamant on bringing down the Houthis, but with so much at risk, it remains to be seen what will happen. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe to ensure you don't miss your daily military report.